Of the Third Reich of Adolf Hitler are in Prague, and the Republic of Czechoslovakia is no more.
In jeder Stunde, an jedem Tag, nur zu denken an Deutschland, an Volk und an Reich, an unsere deutsche Nation. Unser deutsches Volk Sieg heil! 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 Sieg heil!
My friends, let us sit down together again, you and I, to consider our own pressing problems that confront us. There are many among us who in the past closed their eyes to events abroad because they believed in utter good faith what some of their fellow Americans told them, that what was taking place in Europe was none of our business. To those who would not admit the possibility of the approaching storm, to all of them, the past 2 weeks have meant the shattering of many...
Radio had a tremendous effect, I think, in the development of the country in that decade. People were glued to their sets to hear the president really take them into his confidence and tell them what was going on. At least they regarded it in that light. It was exactly the right moment for radio to flourish. You know, here was home entertainment that didn't cost you anything. Not only national entertainment, but in making people for the first time conscious of what was going on in the world. Toward the end of the decade, radio really, I think, converted this country from a traditional isolationism to a feeling of participation in the world. I mean, here you could hear, this is not my idea of pleasure, mind you, but you could hear Adolf Hitler in your living room, and you could hear those horrible roars of the crowd, the Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil, and you could hear Mussolini ranting from his balcony, and you could hear Winston Churchill warn his government.
The Cavalcade of America, presented by DuPont's Better Living Through Chemistry. Tonight we bring you a radio portrait of Annie Oakley and the legend of her crack marksmanship, which to the men and women of her era became their national pride, and to us, one of America's fondest memories. To portray the role of Annie Oakley, we present Agnes Moorehead of the Cavalcade Players. The orchestra and the original musical score are under the direction of Don Voorhees. DuPont, maker of better things for better living through chemistry, presents Agnes Moorehead as Annie Oakley on the Cavalcade of America.
Would you say that, we were talking about Sorry Wrong Number a moment ago, would you say that that was your most exciting radio performance?
No. I've had loads of exciting radio performances. I don't think that just happens to be a memorable one, but I mean, there are many of them. Many of the ones on Cavalcade of America. Oh, so many of them that were exciting.
Howdy, Mr. Shaw. Howdy, ma'am.
Why, it's Annie Mosey, growed up already.
Annie Oakley now, ma'am. I took my ma's name after Pa died, and she went away. Been out shooting myself some supper.
Nothing to shoot in these parts except in that chicken hawk up there. Trying for a week to bring him down.
That ain't so high. Stand back so as I can swing, will you? Thanks.
Well, you got him. With one shot.
Wish getting game was as easy as that.
Game? Oh, help me get this kid undone, Mr. Shaw.
Sure.
Here you are, ma'am.
Partridges.
6 partridges.
You're welcome to 'em. I shot 'em on your property. Tomorrow I'll scare up some quail if you'd like me to.
Say, Annie, why don't you stay a spell with us?
Well, I'm not much good around the house, ma'am.
Oh, don't you worry your head over that, Annie. Just you get the game. I'll cook it. Joe.
Yes, Ma.
Annie can't do her best shooting with this rusty old gun of hern. How about you trading yours for it?
Well, Guess so, Ma.
Oh, I hate to take your new gun, Mr. Shaw.
The Lord himself sent you to us, Annie Oakley. I'm not one to slow up the Lord's work. Neither is my husband.
By the time Germany invaded Czechoslovakia in 1939, the Cavalcade of America had been on the air for 4 years. Its sponsor, the DuPont Company, had been branded a merchant of death in the years following World War I because of the huge profit the company had made by manufacturing gunpowders during the war.
I got my reasons, Elmer. They're fixing to run a state.
The advertising agency, Batten, Barton, Durstine, and Osborne, was charged with creating a positive campaign. Cavalcade was the answer.
I want to help Mr. and Mrs. Shaw pay the mortgage on this place before I move on.
Originally heard from New York on CBS, the show featured some of the East Coast's best radio and theater actors and actresses. As World War II began, Cavalcade dramatized stories of American ingenuity and courage, as well as tales from the past, like on the June 16th, 1941 episode, when Agnes Moorehead starred as American sharpshooter Annie Oakley, who'd only passed away 15 years prior.
That'll be the man.
And on November 17th, 1941, when Errol Flynn starred as George Armstrong Custer, and they died with their boots on.
Men. Beg to report, sir. The regiment's ready for action, sir. Right. Be along in a moment. Yes, sir. General Custer, sir. What is it, Roberts? I've been meaning to ask you ever since you got back to Fort Lincoln. What do you honestly think our chances are of coming back from the Little Bighorn? Well, Why do you ask that? Well, sir, you see, my wife, we haven't been married very long, and I thought, well, if there's not much hope of our getting back. Oh. Well, Roberts, we're 600 men against the combined strength of every Indian fighting man in this territory. They're fighting to defend their last sanctuary, the Black Hills, and I don't blame them. But it's them or us, and I'm afraid it's going to be us. In other words, we haven't a ghost of a chance of coming back alive from the Little Bighorn. That's what I thought, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh, Roberts. Yes, sir? I don't think I'd tell your wife if I were you. It'll be easier for her that way, however it turns out. Perhaps you're right. Thank you, sir. Right. You can mount the columns now if you like. I won't be long. Yes, sir. We'll be waiting, sir. Right.
George?
Oh, come in, my dear. I'm just trying to soften up these old jackboots. Stiffened up a bit since the last time I was in them.
They might have done a better job polishing them up.
Well, I doubt if Crazy Horse will notice.
George, Here's your cartridge belt.
Thank you, my dear. Now then, anything I've forgotten?
Field glasses?
Yes.
Compass?
Got it.
Your watch.
Watch? Oh, here it is. You know, Libby, they ought to make you quartermaster general. Every time I go into the field, I'm the best equipped man in the regiment. Oh, look what I've done.
What is it?
Well, your little miniature. It's broken. I'll be able to take this with me.
It'll be the first time you've ever gone on a campaign without this miniature.
Yes. Well, there isn't any time to fix it, and I can't take any chances on its being lost.
I'm afraid it doesn't look much like me anymore.
Why, it does.
You haven't changed, though. I'm sure you're the only soldier in history who ever became a general without letting his belt out.
Ho, you wait until we've finished up here. Washington staff job for 2 years, and I'll be as fat as any old general. And twice as pompous.
We'll grow old and fat together. It'll be wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Together.
And people will say, don't tell me that life out in Dakota was such a hardship. The Custers grew fat and happy on it.
You have been happy here, haven't you, Libby?
Don't I look happy?
Yes. Well, let me see now. My orders.
I put them in that drawer.
I'll get them. Hey, what's this?
What? Oh, that's my diary.
My life with General Custer. I didn't know you kept a diary.
It wouldn't interest you, dear. Just silly things that seem important to a woman.
May 16th, 1876. Tomorrow my husband leaves, and I cannot but feel that my last happy days are ended. A premonition of disaster such as I have never known is weighing upon me. I try to shut it into my heart, but it is almost unbearable. I pray God I be not asked to walk on alone.
I probably wrote that or something like it every time you left me.
Of course. Of course, I know. I often feel the same way myself.
When will you come back? This time?
Oh, 5 weeks. 6 at the most.
Let's see, that'll be, say, June the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make an entry on that day, too. My husband returned today.
Yes. Goodbye, my dear.
Goodbye, George. Goodbye, General Custer. Goodbye.
Some 7 weeks later, after what was to go down in history as one of the tragic battles of all time, Custer's last stand, the War Department of the United States made a simple entry in its records. It is the life history of a soldier. Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, born December 5th, 1839. Brevetted Major General April 15th, 1865. Killed in action June 25th, 1876.
Less than 3 weeks later, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and Manilla, thrusting the U.S. into World War II.
We sincerely hope that your new motion picture, They Died with Their Boots On, enjoys the success it so well merits when it's released and shown throughout the country. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments our star will return to the microphone, but first we have some interesting
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.